In order to work with wiring really of any kind, but I would say probably especially automotive wiring since it's so intimidating, it's definitely really important to give yourself some kind of electricity crash course, Electricity 101, by just doing some basic research. But I would say the one thing that really messed me up in doing that research is that cars run on DC power, which is direct current, and it's just a different type of electricity than AC power or alternating current, which is what runs your house. It's the grid power that you pay for every month, and that is just a different type of electricity. And I knew that going into it because I've done a lot of research on solar power, for example, where you have a solar battery hooked up to solar panels, and that battery is a DC battery just like your car battery, or even your phone or computer battery. Pretty much any battery is DC powered, and that's why when you actually charge your phone or your computer, there are these little adapters that allow you to plug your computer into the wall or your phone into the wall, and that is actually changing the type of electricity from AC, which is house power, to DC, which is battery power, and if you didn't have that adapter, you wouldn't be able to plug your phone into your house, which would suck. So that's something cool. And so I did know that the types of electricity were different and that you couldn't mix the two of them up without some kind of adapter or inverter. But what I didn't think, or common sense didn't really indicate to me that the actual wiring, the labels and how you wire these two different appliances, a DC versus an AC, would be totally different. So when I was doing research, I definitely got really confused because I was researching AC appliances. I was kind of Googling like, how does electricity work? And it was showing me how AC electricity works and how you wire an AC appliance, which is just totally different language and totally different wires. So let's go over those essential differences. AC power connects appliances to a power source, usually the quote-unquote grid, with 3 wires: hot, neutral, and ground. Let's say we want to power an AC light bulb with a simple battery. We would connect a wire from the negative battery terminal to the light bulb, and this would be our hot wire. Then we would connect a wire from the light bulb to the positive battery terminal, and this would be our neutral wire. Neutral wires are always white, and their function is to carry the electrical current back to the power source so that the circuit is complete. And then, to be safe, we would connect a wire to some metal part of the light bulb or lamp to the positive battery terminal. Ground wires are designed as a backup to carry fault currents when a power abnormality occurs, like if lightning were to strike your house, or if the hot wire on this light bulb were to slip and touch the metal base. The standard color for ground wires is green. DC power, on the other hand, connects appliances to a power source, usually a battery in this case, with anywhere from 1 to 3 wires. The standard is 2, a positive and a negative. The positive wire is similar to the hot wire in that it carries electricity to the device or the appliance, but it is usually connected to the positive end of the terminal instead. The negative wire does the same thing as the ground wire. It essentially lets electricity escape, and in most cases, it simply escapes back to the negative terminal of the battery. Although in examples that don't involve a moving vehicle, it could also escape into the earth if you jammed a metal rod into the ground and connected it to the negative wire. In other words, with DC power, the negative wire is the ground wire. When you're working with automotive DC power, however, things get a little bit more complicated, of course. The actual body of the car, the metal body of the car, is grounded or earthed to the ground or earth terminal of the battery that sits in the front of your car under the hood. And that terminal, you can choose whether your ground terminal is the positive terminal or the negative terminal. But in most cases, it's going to be the negative terminal acting as the ground terminal because that honestly just seems more intuitive, I think is why. That seems more intuitive to me. So in a negative earth return system, which is when you decide to use the negative terminal as the ground terminal, how electricity in the car works is that you hook up the positive terminal of the battery to the device that you want to power, and then that negative wire coming out of that device is then hooked back up to the negative end of the battery. But since the car body itself is grounded to that negative terminal of that battery, you can kind of save a bunch of wire and save a bunch of time by just hooking up all your negative wires to the closest part of the metal body of the car. And since that metal body is then connected to the negative terminal, you just don't have to connect all those wires all the way up to the front of the car. And that's really how it works. In addition, just to make things even more confusing, you can sometimes have a DC powered appliance that actually grounds itself. And in that case, it's probably only gonna have a single wire coming out of it, and that's gonna be the positive wire. And this is basically what happened with my front marker lights. I got them and they only had a single wire, and at first I was really confused. And then I realized that the metal mounting hardware that I would use to screw it in was actually was grounded. So it's a little bit confusing, and understanding the science behind it isn't super important. What's important is that if you get an appliance, if you purchase a DC powered appliance and it only has a single wire, that's the positive wire, and then somehow the manufacturers made it so that that thing grounds itself when you attach it or secure it to whatever you're securing it to. So that's helpful so that you don't have to panic. And in that case, you can just, if you have a positive and a negative wire and you're replacing something like I did with my new marker lights, I just capped off the old negative wire since I no longer needed it, and then it was totally fine. So yeah.